Welcome back to the world of Ter'Ra'Mentia. We're happy to have you for another week for another character build. This week we're doing the Planeswalker. We're going to be leaning into a hyper-focused finesse class. We're going to teleport around the battlefield using a bow, and it's going to be a ton of fun. Unlike last week with the Flame Warden, where we dipped a lot into the mana side of things, we're not going to ignore our mana pool, as we will need some of it, but we're going to be hyper-focused in on our finesse main attribute and our life force core attribute using the spirit pools. The Planeswalker with a finesse-based identity really has a suite of abilities and spells that lend itself to being amazing at a ranged combatant. But they are no slouch at melee as well, and have some good options and abilities that can lend itself well to that build style too. There's just a little bit more options for ranged. The Planeswalker is another class that has been getting caught up in the recent events in the world of Ter'Ra'Mentia. As portals have been opening up, they got cursed by a demon. And there's going to be certain effects that come along with that can make for a lot of fun and also help give them their abilities. Please follow us to stay up to date with latest events and news leading up to our release of our first publication, which is set for January 2024. So let's take a look at how we're going to build today's character up to level 6. Okay, there's a lot of moving parts in these build videos. I only found one mistake here as I was going through, but let's get started. Level 1. Background is kept simple here. As for a build video, we don't need to get too far into it. We just need a little bit of flavor to help inform us in some of our choices maybe. We're a Shifting Wilds native. Our parents are druidic keepers to a small village outside of the Sage Fortress. After becoming curse-marked, we set out on a journey to discover what has happened to us and the world around us. Our personality is positive, scrutinizing, and we possess some awkward charm. A couple of personal possessions we have on us is a family brooch on our cloak, a pet squirrel named Edge, and lucky boots and quiver. We got a pair of boots that we just really need to get rid of and kind of refuse to, as well as a quiver. So maybe we'll be in search of those on our journeys, if we feel we can part with the ones we have. Being of Akasha at level 1, we have Homeland Knowledge, where we can gain 1d4 to navigation and wildlife checks when in the Shifting Wilds. We get Ancestral Hunter, where we can summon an ethereal weapon to our hands at will, just like our ancestors of old. We have Vikasha Quickness, plus 1d4 speed at the cost of 1 spirit. This is going to play into our class very, very well. Our goal here is to be elusive. We want to be fast. We want to go before everyone else, and we want to reap the benefits of that. As a level 1 Planeswalker, we gained Curse Marked, where when we fall below 50% health, we will randomly teleport up to 40 feet away, and we have to roll to see what direction that is in. It's part of our curse. Also a part of that is if we reach 0 health, we have to roll on another table to see if we actually will start taking wound counters, or to see if we teleport to possibly a random plane of existence. The other feature here is Planeswalker 1. We can mark a 10 by 10 foot area that we are in as home, and we have opportunities outside of combat to teleport to home at will. For core attributes, we put 2 points into life force and 0 into mind. We're going to find other ways to get some pluses to mana as we level up, because we will make use of the mana pool to do some of our teleporting. But as I said, we're going to all in our finesse and life force for this. We're going full into the bow. Main attributes, we took 2 points into finesse. This is our class attribute. Our vitality, we took 1 point. Just to help out, is 8 is our base, so we want to start with 9 and gain that amount every level as we go. Our willpower main attribute is not specified, therefore it defaults to intellect. I didn't put any points there for this build though. I want to be the fastest thing alive, so I stuffed a point into wits, which will also play into some of our other roleplay. Being a Planeswalker, we receive 1 bow or crossbow archetype specialization for free at level 1. I chose the longbow. We're also giving the tracking specialization, and we're gifted the memory specialization. Now, as you can see, we have a 0 here, as I did not build into it, even though it was a free specialization given to us. We could get extra damage out of having some points in Mind and Mana, but we're not going that route, and our damage is still going to be massive. Then for our base 5 level 1 choices that we get to make for specializations, I took Prowess, I took Wildlife, because even though we can't speak to our pet like our parents, our druidic parents could, I still want to kind of fit that role play. I also took Intuition, as well as leather armor and a short bow. I didn't take any melee weapons, as later on we'll be able to build into that a little bit just as a side piece. But I wanted my character to be good with the longbow at longer ranges. I want to do some sniping. I want to talk my game master into putting me in situations where I can do some sniping, and I also want to use short bow at closer ranges. At character creation, I also chose to get 1 epic point. Epic points can be used to collaborate with team members, to roleplay with our game master situations and tell stories when maybe the dice aren't telling it. We're light on sanity here. That could always be a problem for any class, but we're going to do one thing and we're going to do it really well. Our languages are Common and Elvish. We haven't picked up anything extra. And for starter equipment, I picked up the Spirit Potion, leather armor, 80 arrows, 40 were gifted to us, 40 I spent gold on. We've got some feed for our pet, for our squirrel Edge. We got 50 feet of rope, fire starter kit, bedroll, and of course our longbow and short bow. Our level 1 choices for abilities are Combat Awareness. Combat Awareness is an ability for 1 spirit that if no enemies are below us in the speed rotation, we can re-roll that number so we can try to go first. And we're going to be very good at going first. You'll see. We also chose Swiftness. So for 1 spirit once per round, we can spend 1 spirit instead of 1 action point to swap weapons if we need to on the fly. I picked up Surprise Attack 1. This is an ability that can be built on later as a choice. But if no enemies are above us in the speed rotation, we're going to gain +6 damage for the first attack of the first round. This is kind of a passive ability and not one that you have to activate. And then Pet Lover seemed appropriate, but I wanted to lean into Tracker. So for 1 mana, we can gain a +6 to a tracking check. Before we move on to level 2, I really wanted to show the fact that we have a 16 defense right now and a +3 to speed. Let's watch how this increases as we focus on finesse and wits. Level 2 is going to afford us another ability or spell, a +1 to main attribute, and Hunter Training 1. Hunter Training 1 gives us a choice. We can gain a +1 to speed or vitality. And you guessed it, I took speed. We are now boasting a +5 to enter that speed rotation. For our main attribute, also not a surprise, we took finesse. This is increasing our speed, this is increasing our defense, and at the same time making us much better with our weapons. We've got a +5 to hit and to damage with our longbow and short bow. Our health is a mediocre to subpar 18. It's going to be enough to get by, especially as we start to get more mobile. There were a couple choices to pick up at level 2. I thought about going back to take reposition to get around the battlefield easier, but we're going to get better ways to do that. I could have picked up knockdown attack to help CC our foes and help the party do more damage, but I went for speed attack because we're going to be lightning fast. It has a high cost for its level with 2 action points and 2 spirit, but we really get a lot of bang for the buck if we do have the resources to use it. We can attack 2 targets that are adjacent to us in melee or adjacent to each other at range. Now that can be done without spending spirit, just using a short bow or short swords. However, we're also going to gain reposition on top of this for free. This ability also ignores any reload requirements if you are somebody that was into hand crossbows or crossbows. Level 3 is a big level for most classes. We're going to pick up 2 abilities or spells here, 1 core attribute, and Ranger Training 1. Ranger Training 1 is going to give us an extra +1 to tracking. and also provides us some role play as far as like finding edible meals, in terms of like hunting throughout the woods and whatnot, doing some searching while our party is kind of at rest. So being on the go, we may worry less about how many rations we actually have depending on a given situation. For our core attribute, we took Life Force. This is going to increase our weapon to hit and damage, our spirit pool, and our spirit power. Now, I did notice here the one mistake we had, and it was on the last couple sheets, was that our spirit should have one more in the pool, as Vikashas start with one more spirit. And they're the only race that does so. So it's pretty important. So this +1 to Life Force has afforded us to have a 6 prowess, a 6 with our longbow and short bow to hit and to damage, 6 spirit, and 6 spirit power. Our health is up to a decent 27. And for abilities and spells, it was hard not to take both of them at level 3, so I did. I took Fade Step. For 1 action point and 1 mana, we can teleport up to 30 feet away. And this is the whole reason I didn't pick up the Reposition ability. Now our mana pool is only at 2 right now, so we need to be careful throughout the day how we're going to spend our mana. This is going to start us off on the path to high mobility and going first and doing what we need to do fast. Fade Step is also going to pair well with baked-in class features that are coming up as well. It's hard not to take it, as well as another ability that's coming up. But first, the other level 3 one that we took was Trick Shot. For 2 action points and 1 spirit, we can fire a ranged weapon that travels up to 20 feet before making up to a 90-degree angle turn through a small portal and popping back out. So we can have a lot of fun with this ability. It doesn't afford us any more damage, but it's going to afford us a whole lot of cool. Character level 4 is going to bring us some more fun and damage as well. We get a +1 weapon or armor specialization. Here I decided to take Short Sword. So even though I already had a short sword in my inventory, maybe 2 of them, I wanted to be a little bit better at it. And even if I don't have one in my inventory, when I summon my ancestral weapon, it could be a short sword, and I'll be a little bit better with it. We also get a choice of +1 to spirit or mana at level 4. Since we already had an inherent +1 from being Vikasha, and we're pumping our life force and plan on doing so for the remainder of the character, I decided to take 1 into mana to help us out with that battlefield mobility, because our spirit pool really shouldn't have too many troubles as long as we're being careful. Then we gain +1 main attribute again. Again, no surprise, we put it in finesse. Our finesse is now a 4. This brings up our spirit power, this brings up our speed, and this brings up our defense. We also now have a +7 to hit and damage with our longbows, short bows, and short swords. Yeah, level 4 and we are off to the races. Because now we're also going to get Adrenaline Rush 1. We're going to gain an extra 2 damage with the weapon we're specialized in, and we have equipped after teleporting for 1 round. So since we're specialized with a longbow, short bow, or short sword, anytime we come through a portal, we use our Fade Step. The next attack we make is going to do an extra 2 damage. And we're already up to level 5. We're going to pick 2 abilities and spells right off the bat here. Again, we have another level that gives us so many good choices, making it so hard on what build we want to go for. I really wanted Smoke Cloud. I really wanted to shoot that arrow into a puff of smoke, maybe helping us escape or helping protect our party, obscuring vision through it. I really wanted to ambush arrow, shoot an arrow 10 feet into a portal, and then have it come out behind a target, dealing extra damage. But I went for Trap Arrow, where we're going to fire a projectile that's going to explode caltrops onto the ground, creating difficult terrain and doing a small amount of combat damage. And then Fade Strike. This is another teleport ability, doubling down on what we're going to be good at. For 2 action points, 1 spirit, and 1 mana, we can teleport up to 30 feet away and make 2 attacks with a weapon we're specialized with. And of course, it's going to do a little bit of extra damage with our Adrenaline Rush bonus of +2. Level 5 gives us another +1 to spirit or mana. I chose mana again. Since we're constantly pumping our life force, we're going to be getting more into our spirit pool inherently. This way I'm not having to invest any points right now into mind. This is going to give us up to 4 teleports a day depending on how we manage our resources. Now our Ranger training has evolved to Ranger training 2. We can now use a bow, longbow, or great bow as a melee weapon for the cost of 2 action points. So if we don't even want to carry a short sword on us or some other type of melee weapon, we can just use this and maybe have that Legolas style, right? If that's something we're interested in. Or maybe we found such a cool bow, but we haven't found a really cool short sword. So here we go. We have an option. Then our Planeswalker 1 has evolved into Planeswalker 2. Anyone making contact with us can now teleport to home with us. And we can bring objects that are no bigger than like 3 square feet. Level 6, the level we've all been waiting for, the level that everyone waits for, because we now have 3 action points, and this is going to help us immensely manage what we need to do in a round of combat. The very first thing we get at level 6 is +1 core attribute, and once again, no surprise, we took 1 point into life force, increasing our spirit pool and our spirit power. This is also going to bring up our weapon damage to +8 hit and damage with weapons we're specialized in that use the finesse attribute. And we get 1 main attribute here. I actually didn't put it in finesse. Since we're already up to a +8 to hit and damage with our bows, I figured I would take this opportunity to put 1 point into wits so some of my roleplay specializations didn't fall too far behind. We've got a +2 intuition now, a +3 tracking, and a +2 to wildlife. Had we thrown another point into mind, that would bring those up even further. And I think at some point along the way, before we're done, we might get 1 point into mind, help boost that mana pool and some of those roleplay specializations. Especially since +8 is already so amazing, we're going to continue to be amazing at hitting our targets. No question about that. So we didn't gain any more defense this level. However, we did gain more speed. And we're at a whopping +8. Holy smokes, we are fast. So what else do we get? We do get 2 more things. The first one is Adrenaline Rush 2. It is evolved to do +4 damage on weapon attacks that we're specialized with when coming out of a portal. So right after we do our teleports, when we do our Fade Step or Fade Strike, then we have a choice of 2-handed weapons training or dual wield mastery. And here, since I made it clear that we're really into our longbow, I went with 2-handed weapons training so we can get an additional attack with that big weapon. So you can see the Planeswalker is slightly less complicated than building a Flame Warden, but it is no less fun. As we move up through the levels, we're going to get better at going first. We're going to get bonuses for going first. We're going to have things to do if we're going last. We also compare well with other classes that can maybe help us boost the ability to go first or control where we're at in the speed rotation, such as the Astral Priest, maybe the Solar Witch. We're going to gain the ability of foresight to be able to teleport up to 40 feet away to a location we can see before combat starts. There are so many neat things to really be done here. We can be good with traps. We can displace enemies with teleports. We can create teleport traps, put the 2 together. We can get bonuses for being a loner. We can gain a quest to obtain an astral quiver, so we don't have to count arrows anymore. We can get a blitz attack. We can sabotage things. And along the way, maybe we're going to discover what this curse means to us. Do we want it cured? Do we not want it cured? It's the source of all of our power right now. Maybe along the way we've met another touched and partied up with them, and they're also trying to discover the source of their powers and what had happened to them as they got caught in the wake of strange events across Ter'Ra'Mentia. Either way, we appreciate having you along for the ride, checking out our 18 playable classes in the core game of our new tabletop role-playing game, Ter'Ra'Mentia. Remember, there'll be more news to come in our game, local events, and more cons that we're going to hit coming spring. So, look for the news, stay up to date, and we'll see you next time in the world of Ter'Ra'Mentia.